Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we're doing a comparison between two of the most legendary and iconic guitar models you can probably think of. Here we've got the Ibanez RG, and here we've got the Epiphone or Gibson Les Paul model. Now this specific guitar is a 2024 Ibanez RG421S, and this one here is my trusty 2014 Epiphone Les Paul Traditional Pro. But why am I comparing these two guitars? Well, it's because they are both icons. They've both been around for decades as designs. There are so many different RG models out there. There are so many different Les Paul models out there too. And you can start your guitar journey on one of these guitars with a cheaper Far Eastern made one, and you can go all the way up to Japanese or American built custom shop versions. So they're guitars that can be with you with every step of your journey. And they're also guitar models that have been played by legendary guitarists in pretty much every genre since they've been out. So these are guitars that we all sort of aspire to, and many of you watching this video might indeed be picking between one of these two as your first or your second or maybe even your third guitar. So hopefully this video is going to give you a bit more information about the differences between them and what you can achieve with both of them and which one might work best for you at the end of the day. So first I'll tell you about the specs and the features of these two specific guitars. Then we'll play them in a variety of different musical styles so you can really hear how different and how similar they sound across a bunch of different genres. And then at the end I'll give you some more in-depth opinions about both guitars. We'll go through the different categories of why you might be buying them and what might make them worth it to you. And hopefully by the end of the video you'll know a bit more about both. First though, the specifications and features, and we're going to start with the 2024 Ibanez RG421S. So this is the 2024 Ibanez RG421S in Sea Shore Matte, and it's a beautiful looking guitar. It's a really nice satin green sort of a finish, and the guitar is actually satin from top to bottom, including the back of the neck too. So it's a lovely sleek affair all the way. Now this being a 2024 model, it's one of the most affordable in the new Ibanez catalogue. This guitar will set you back around $350 to $450, euros or pounds, depending on where you are in the world. So very much an affordable guitar. And it's made in Indonesia. Now being an RG, it's going to be home for shredders, metal players and soloists as well, but it's great for any style of music, as you will see if you carry on watching this video. Or if you want to watch in even more detail about this guitar, I have a specific video exclusively about this one that you can watch after this one. Anyway though, we have a meranti body on this guitar, and you can see the colour of the wood there on the back. It's a beautiful lightweight mahogany-esque tone wood, I would say. We have binding to the body and also to the neck, and on the front of the body you can see that it's actually a very simple affair. We've got two pickups, we've got a selector switch and a volume and a tone control, but these are Ibanez's quantum ceramic humbuckers, and we have a 5-way switch that give us a few more options. Now if I flick us up to the top here, we're in neck humbucker mode, so we've got the standard neck humbucker. But if I flick us down to the second setting here, we're still going to be on the neck humbucker, but it's now active in parallel mode. So the two coils are going to be in parallel, and that's going to give us more of a single coil sort of tonality. In the middle of the 5-way switch, we have the two humbuckers on together. And if I flick us to the fourth position here, we actually have access to the inner coils of both of the humbuckers. So again, true coil split tech there, and that should maybe even give us some stratty sort of quacky in-between sort of sounds, but we'll hear those in the playing section. And down to the bottom here, it's full-on bridge humbucking action all the way. We've got a hardtail Ibanez F106 bridge here. I like hardtail bridges at this price point for the tuning stability and the comfort that they give you, and the master volume and master tone control. Just another quick look at the back then, that big tummy cut, and we've got really nice upper fret access courtesy of these massive cutaways on the upper and lower bouts. Moving up to the neck of the guitar then, we have a maple neck with a Jatoba fingerboard here, 24 jumbo frets, and we have a Wizard 3 neck profile. So it's a really slim, sleek neck and satin finish too, so it should be really fast to play if you're a fast player. We have a 43mm nut here, a 25.5-inch scale length, which is 648mm, and a 400mm fingerboard radius, which is about 15¾ inches. So very much a modern feeling neck and fingerboard here as well. And if I move us up to the headstock, we've got a cool looking black finish there and 6 inline Ibanez style tuners. So this is the 2024 RG421S. And now let's go 10 years back into the past and look at my 2014 Epiphone Les Paul Traditional Pro. And this is my 2014 Epiphone Les Paul Traditional Pro in this beautiful aqua blue satin finish. Now it's called aqua blue satin, but the front of the guitar is gloss and the rest of it, the back and the sides and the back of the neck, are all satin. So it's a really cool guitar. I've had it new since 2014, so that's 10 years. I've played it for thousands of hours since then, and it's a wonderful guitar that feels like home to me. So in a respect, this comparison is maybe a little bit biased, but there you go, old versus new, classic versus modern. And the Les Paul really is that classic sort of a shape, whereas the RG is more of a modern shredder's, modern metal player's delight. But anyway, this specific guitar has great specifications, and I bought it new 10 years ago for 330 euros, and that included a really decent quality Epiphone hard case. You're probably not going to get anything like that in terms of value for money today, but that's what I paid for it. And with this guitar, we've got a mahogany body and a flamed maple top here. If I flick us over to the back again, you can see classic Les Paul territory, so no offset neck heels or anything like that. This is an old school Les Paul in that regard, and we've got the carved top body as well. On the front of this guitar, we've got two really cool looking zebra humbucking pickups. They're Epiphone's own pickups. In the neck, we have the Epiphone Alnico Classic humbucker, and in the bridge, we have the Epiphone Pro Bucker 3. Now these pickups have a three-way selector switch, and we have a volume and a tone control for each pickup, but we have added versatility with this guitar as well, because you can pull up each of the volume controls, and that splits these down to single coils. So supreme versatility on this guitar as well. And that's going to be something that you'll find with many modern day Epiphone Les Pauls too. These are not just humbuckers anymore, you'll get single coil tones out of them too. Elsewhere we have Epiphone's own hardware and stuff like that. We've got the classic Les Paul Tune-o-matic bridge and stop bar tailpiece, and again we've got binding to the body and neck of this guitar. Let's just go back one more time to the back of this guitar and that really nice matte black. It's a really classy looking instrument. I really like it. And moving up to the neck, we have a mahogany neck and a 22 medium jumbo fret rosewood fingerboard. This guitar, Epiphone always say, has their slim tapered 60s profile neck in a D shape, and it does feel like a D shape to me, but this is one of the chunkiest necks that I own. It's a really comfortable profile, and over the years I've grown to have it just be an extension of my hand when I'm playing it. So I really like this guitar. We've got standard Gibson or Epiphone nut width too, 24 3/4 inch scale length, 628 millimeters, and we've got a 14-inch fingerboard radius, so really nice and flat as well, just a little bit flatter than that of the RG421S. And if I move us up to the headstock, you can see the old Epiphone headstock design, which is one thing I would change if I had the chance, and we have Grover tuners on the back there. One last thing to say about this guitar is, of course, I've had it for 10 years, it's had multiple setups in that time, and I've had a bone nut fitted too to aid the tuning stability, and that also seems to have aided the tonality of the guitar too, but that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, this is the 2014 Epiphone Les Paul Traditional Pro, and this is the 2024 Ibanez RG421S, and what we're going to do next is play them. Now my rig for today is going to be my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 head. We'll start playing the two guitars on the clean channel of the amp with just a smidgen of reverb. We'll play some country and some folk and some blues, stuff like that. Then we'll kick up the gain a notch with my Greer Lightspeed Organic Overdrive. We'll play some indie rock and some alternative rock with that pedal. After that, we'll go to the amp's crunch channel and try some AC/DC and some classic rock stuff. Then we'll go up to the lead channel, try some harder rock and some punk rock and maybe some progressive rock. And then we'll go back to the clean channel. We'll tune the two guitars down to drop D. I'll kick in my Reb G3 distortion pedal, and we'll see if we can get the Les Paul and the RG to do a bit of chugging and a bit of metal, because why not? Enough talk then. 2014 Epiphone Les Paul versus 2024 Ibanez RG. Let's play them now, and we'll speak in more detail about them afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Ibanez RG up against the Epiphone Les Paul, and I hope you enjoyed the battle of these two affordable guitar icons. Leave me a comment down there telling me which of the two guitars you thought was best and why. But what I'm going to do now is go through and give you a few more detailed opinions from my own perspective about these two instruments, how I think they fare against one another, and which I ultimately think is going to be the best value for money at the end of the day. So we'll go through the different categories I think that you might be looking at when you're going to buy a new guitar. And I think the first thing that you'll probably look at when considering a new guitar would be the looks. Well, the price and the looks together, I guess, but we'll start with the looks. And this is going to be something which is totally up to you. This is totally subjective. And of course, we all like how different things look. Now, I would say that the Les Paul represents the classic end of the guitar world, while the RG is more of the modern end. Now, the Les Paul, you're going to see it in so many different classic videos of amazing rock bands from back in the day, all the way through to now, and you're going to see it in all sorts of different genres too, from country and jazz through to modern day metal. The RG is not going to be quite so widely seen. I wouldn't have thought. You're probably not going to see too many country players using these guitars, even though they can do that. You're going to see it more associated with the worlds of metal and hard rock and stuff like that. So in terms of looks, that's probably going to guide you. In terms of the looks of these two specific guitars, I love the look of the Epiphone Les Paul, and I'm drawn towards blue and green guitars. I love classic guitars as well. I always tend to gravitate towards older stuff, but I really love the Sea Shore Matte finish of this Ibanez. However, I'm probably going to say that on most days I would pick the looks of a Les Paul over the looks of an RG. The second thing that I would look at would be the prices, and in pure pricing terms, well, 10 years ago I paid 330 euros for my Epiphone Les Paul, which is considerably cheaper than this RG costs now. But in terms of inflation and stuff like that, well, a new Les Paul is going to be more expensive than this RG probably. So in those regards, the RG is going to be better value for money in that respect. They're both very affordable instruments. They would work great as very luxurious first guitars, or a second, third, or even 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guitars, whatever. They're both great value for money too. The next thing that I would look at would be the build quality and the hardware on these two guitars, and they're both, again, really decent value in terms of what you're paying for them. Now, the Ibanez being an affordable Ibanez, you get great Ibanez stuff all over it. Everything does its job fantastically. This guitar was set up very well straight out of the box. The Ibanez tuners and the Ibanez pickups and electronics all do everything just as they should. The guitar has been built, well, pretty much perfectly. I can't find anything wrong with it. No finish blemishes, no crackling electronics or anything like that. It's really, really good in every respect. Now, the Epiphone Les Paul is possibly one step higher. 10 years ago, you'd get the mahogany body and the maple top along with a mahogany neck and a rosewood fingerboard too. Those are great. I got the hard case too for the money, and you get Grover tuners on the Epiphone as well, which is definitely a brand name worth having if you can get it, although the Ibanez tuners do a very decent job, I have to say. I've got the bone nut on the Epiphone as well. I think that guitar did need it, and over the years my techs also had to resolder the pickup selector switch wires just to make sure that you didn't lose a bit of signal or get some crackling when you selected the neck pickup. That's something that I'm led to believe happens on a lot of Epiphone type guitars. Not a huge problem, but just something that I've had to do over the 10 years of hard playing of that guitar. But in terms of build quality, they're both very, very decent guitars, and in terms of the woods used and stuff like that, I'm going to say that the Epiphone is on a slightly higher level than this specific RG. Although, of course, you could pay more for higher quality in both models. After the build quality and the hardware, the next thing we're going to come to is going to be one of the biggest differences between these two guitars, and that's the playability and the necks. Now, the RG here is built to be a super lightweight and easy to play guitar, and this specific example really is very light. It's 2.84 kilograms, which is about 6 pounds 4, so it's a fantastic, really lightweight guitar that doesn't feel like a toy either. In comparison, the Epiphone Les Paul is 3.87 kilograms, which is a bit over 8.5 pounds. So that's proper Les Paul weight, feels really solid, doesn't feel too heavy because it's a Les Paul, but it's a very significant difference between the two. So if you want a lighter weight guitar, check them all out in the shops, of course, because they do vary from guitar to guitar, but probably an RG is going to be lighter. Now, in terms of the rest of the playability, you've got this really deep double cutaway and this tummy cut on the back of the RG, so you've got much better upper fret access, and it's going to come in tighter to your body as well. So there's that to think about in terms of the body. You've got the big chunky carved top, mahogany body and maple top on the Les Paul, and we've got the necks, which are very different too. On the RG, we've got this Wizard 3 profile, which is a very slinky and slim satin finish maple neck, really nice to get up and down, but it's much less in your hand than the Les Paul, which has a D-shaped neck, also satin finished. It's mahogany, but it's much chunkier. Again, we have classic feel versus modern feel, and that's going to be 100% a taste thing based on what you prefer. So try them both out and see which works best for you. Now, this is actually the first RG that I've ever spent more than a couple of minutes with, and I love this neck profile, but overall I'm going to have to give the win on the playability to that lovely chunky neck of the Epiphone that just feels like home for me. Ask me again in a couple more years though, and the comfiness and the ergonomics of the RG might mean that I'm an old man playing an RG instead of something like a Les Paul. Who knows? Come back to the channel in a couple of years to find out about that. But the other crucial factor that we have to talk about with these two guitars, well, it's the sounds. And you might expect them to be very different sounding guitars, and in some aspects they are, but I have to say that I was really surprised at just how similar the RG and the Les Paul sounded in so many of the different tonal samples. And I think you'll agree, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think too. But anyway, first off, these are both way more versatile guitars than I think many people would give them credit for, especially the RG. I think because of the way an RG looks, most people would not consider it as a great clean guitar or as a great low gain guitar, but it's fantastic for that too. And with the 5-way switch and those coil split sounds, you really have authentic, really nice, classic, clean tones too. And you could fool some people into thinking that you're playing a Strat or a Tele or something like that. They're that good. Now with the Epiphone Les Paul, you've got those two Epiphone humbuckers, and with this specific model, you've also got the push-pull pots on the volume controls that give you access to genuine coil splits too. So that guitar does great single coil tones, and it actually has a tiny bit more versatility than the Ibanez in that regard, because you can have coil split on one pickup and not on the other, or on both, so you've got an extra sound compared to the Ibanez. However, there's something about the character of the coil split on the Ibanez, particularly when you've got the inner coils of both pickups on together, that I really like. It's a really authentic sound, and that elevates it slightly above the Les Paul for me in terms of the coil split tones. But most of you, I think, are going to be using the humbuckers most of the time for both of these guitars, and well, they are very similar sounding guitars, and I think they got more and more similar the higher and higher we went with the gain, to the point that when we're playing the Rev G3, the differences, if you close your eyes, are really minimal. But with the clean tones, I think we had a bit more fatness and low end out of the Epiphone, and a bit more crisp high end out of the RG, as befits the bodies and the weights of the guitars, I think, and that continued with the classic rock and the indie rock as well. For the hard rock stuff and the punk, where I think a lot of you will be with both of these guitars if you're buying one, well, these two guitars excel at that. They both have a lot of clarity despite being affordable guitars with high output humbuckers, and they're both going to be great choices for those styles of music. Overall, these two guitars offer amazing tonal versatility, and you can play pretty much any style of music with either of them. Don't go thinking that this RG can't do great single coil clean tones, because it can. And by the same token, don't go thinking that the Epiphone Les Paul won't handle modern metal tones, because it can do that in spades. They're both very versatile instruments, and you shouldn't really discount anything from them in the tonal department. In conclusion then, which of these two guitars is better, and which one should you choose in 2024? Well, that's a really tough question. A lot of this is going to be down to personal taste, by how they look and how they play as well. Now, we've got modern versus classic in many regards here. The RG is a really lightweight, slim and easy to play sleek thing, feels fantastic, is built for speed and ergonomics and that kind of stuff. The Les Paul is built to be a fantastic classic guitar with also modern playability. It has the satin neck, albeit a much chunkier neck than the RG. It has that Les Paul body, which a lot of you may find more cumbersome, and it is definitely more weighty than that of the RG, but it's a classic for a reason, and both have their strengths and their weaknesses too. Now, in terms of the sounds, like we've just discussed, they are very similar in many regards. Depending on what exactly you want to do, I think you could do it with both of them. And I would say that if you're someone who leans more towards soloing and upper fret access, that's where the RG is going to win out slightly. And if you're someone who really wants to play more classic stuff, more vintage sort of sounds, then the Les Paul is probably going to be your natural sort of choice, definitely in terms of aesthetic and possibly in terms of the tones too. Now it's also important to say that if you're looking for an RG or if you're looking for a Les Paul, these are just one individual model in a massive family for both of them, both new and used. So you can check out many different budget points. There's different pickup options available, different body woods, different neck types and so on for both models. There are so many RGs and Les Pauls out there. So if there are specific feature sets that you want, well, type them into Google or whatever, check out your local dealer and try out all of the options and you'll find one which works for you. Now for me, to answer that all-important question, which one do I think is better and which one would I buy? Well, that's a really tough question. Now I absolutely love my Epiphone Les Paul. I'm never going to sell that guitar. It's been with me for 10 years and it's going to be with me for many more decades to come, hopefully, so I would never get rid of that guitar. But if I didn't own either, and if I knew what I know now, and I was in the shop and I was looking at both of these guitars, taking into account the new pricing on the Les Paul and taking into account the fact that these days I'm a lot more open-minded than I used to be as a guitar player, well, you know what? I'd pick the RG off the wall first, just to check it out. It would probably be that after I tried them both for an hour or so in the store, that I'd side with the Epiphone because of the neck and because of that psychological factor in my head that I'm more of a classical sort of a guy. But like I've already said in the video, in a couple of years come back and you never know, I might just be playing RGs. Anyway, I hope this video has helped you decide between these two guitars. I hope it's given you more information about both of them. But if there's anything else you'd like to know, let me know down in the comments and I shall answer to the best of my ability. And if you're still around, it would really make my day if you wanted to give the video a like or maybe even sub to my little channel because that really does help. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.